When the bullet entered Richard Halston's chest, it wasn't the pain that startled him. It was the look on his wife's face. Cold, calculated, almost bored. He had married her thinking she was the cure to his loneliness. Turns out, she had been counting the days to his death. But as his body hit the polished marble floor of their penthouse, a single thought clung to life with him. She doesn't know. Elena Monroe wasn't the kind of woman you dated casually. She had a presence, a sharp beauty that felt more like danger than grace. When Richard Halston met her at a charity gala hosted by his own foundation, he thought she was just another socialite. But she had studied him long before that night. He was 61. She was 32. He was divorced, wealthy, and lonely. She was radiant, mysterious, and attentive. They were married 6 months later. People whispered, of course. Gold digger, trophy wife. But Elena played the part flawlessly, smiling in public, doting in private, and never once challenging Richard's authority. To Richard's friends, she seemed perfect. To Richard's lawyers, she was a risk. To Elena, he was a ticking clock. The first year was tolerable. Richard had his routines, and Elena had her secrets. She made no effort to connect with his adult children. She loathed his dog, but she knew how to play the game. Give him warmth, give him sex, and, most importantly, give him the illusion of control. But beneath the surface, Elena had made a pact. Not with God, not with Richard, but with herself. By year 2, I will be the sole inheritor. And by year 3, he'll be dead. She had done her research. Richard's will, she believed, had not been updated since his divorce. The bulk of his estate, $72 million in holdings, properties, and trust funds, would transfer to his spouse. Her. She checked twice with a friend who worked in probate law. All she needed was patience and timing. Elena didn't plan to kill him herself. Not at first. She fantasized about poisoning his scotch. Sure. But she was no fool. She knew accidents were more believable. So when Richard slipped on wet bathroom tiles in February and shattered his wrist, she took it as a sign. But it wasn't fatal. In June, she tampered with the brakes on his Aston Martin. He drove it straight into a bush. Still alive. By August, her patience had turned to frustration. She needed that money. Her debts were circling like vultures, and she was running out of believable accidents. So she took matters into her own hands. It was supposed to be clean. One shot. A burglary gone wrong. She even smashed a window to make it look convincing. Richard had just come home from a board meeting when it happened. He walked in, tossed his briefcase onto the table, and turned to find her holding his gun. One he kept in the safe for protection. He froze. Then he laughed. "Elena," he said, "you're not serious." She didn't speak. She aimed, and she pulled the trigger. The police found Elena crying over the body. Hysterical. Shocked. "I heard the window break," she sobbed. "I ran down and he was just lying there. No signs of forced entry. No surveillance footage." The story held. And just like that, Richard Halston was dead. The billionaire philanthropist, the real estate magnate, gone in a single night. The funeral was grand, tasteful, and fake. Elena wore black. She wept at the podium, and she smiled in the back of the limo. Her lawyer called 3 weeks later. "The will has been scheduled for reading next Thursday," he said. "Bring identification." She was ready. She had waited 2 years for this moment. The reading of Richard Halston's will took place in the mahogany-paneled office of his longtime estate lawyer, Gregory Vance. Elena arrived in a sleek black dress, confident and composed. A few of Richard's children were there, polite but distant. She didn't care. They would leave with nothing. She would leave with everything. Gregory cleared his throat. Per the instructions of Richard Halston, this will, signed and notarized on May 3rd, supersedes all prior documents. Elena frowned. May 3rd? That was just 3 months ago. She leaned forward. Gregory continued. "To my wife, Elena Monroe Halston, I leave a monthly stipend of $5,000 for a period of 1 year on the condition that she remains unmarried and does not contest this will." Elena's blood ran cold. To my children, Claire, Jason, and Meredith, I leave equal shares of the Halston estate. She barely heard the rest. Her vision blurred. Her mouth went dry. What the hell? That's impossible, she whispered. Gregory looked at her calmly. Richard came in 3 months ago. Said he had clarity. He rewrote everything. She stood. No, that's not. He told me. There's a video recording, Gregory said. Would you like to see it? He didn't wait for permission. A screen lit up behind the desk. Richard's face appeared, tired but firm. If you're watching this, Elena, I'm dead, and I know you killed me, or tried to. That gun in the safe, I left it there for you. I wanted to see if you'd use it. Turns out I was right. She gasped. But I made some changes. You won't get the money, and you won't get away with this. Elena left the law office in a daze. A single tear traced down her cheek. Not from grief, but fury. Richard had played her. He had seen through her all along. And now she had nothing. Worse, she had everything to lose. Because if the video got out, if the police reopened the case, if the evidence she'd buried wasn't buried deep enough, she didn't just lose an inheritance. She could lose her freedom, or her life. As she stepped into the back of the waiting car, a voice spoke from the shadows. Did you think this was over? She turned, heart leaping. In the back seat sat a stranger, bald, lean, cold eyes. He smiled. Richard hired me, months before he died. I have instructions. Elena opened her mouth to scream, but the car door locked. He leaned closer. You see, Mrs. Halston, the will wasn't the only thing he changed. Elena's pulse pounded like a drum as the stranger in the back seat leaned into the shadows. His silhouette lit only by the streetlight filtering through the tinted window. His presence was both calm and terrifying. Instructions? She repeated, voice tight. He nodded. Richard knew you'd try something. He hired me 6 months ago. Told me to watch, record, prepare. Elena's lips parted. You were following me? I was protecting him. But now I work for his legacy. She turned toward the car door. Locked. The driver didn't even glance back. The man reached into his coat and pulled out a slim leather folder. He dropped it onto her lap. Read. Inside were photos of her at the gun range, at a meeting with a shady fixer in a downtown bar, of the tampered brake cables, of the burner phone she'd discarded, and then one photo that made her blood stop. It was her, standing over Richard's body, gun still in hand. The timestamp glared up at her. You were in the house, she said. The man didn't answer. What do you want? She snapped. Same thing Richard did. The truth. Justice. She laughed bitterly. Justice? He changed the will. He lied. He left you something better than money, the man said. She stared at him. What are you talking about? He handed her a second folder. Inside was a sealed envelope marked, to be opened only by Elena Monroe Halston, should she survive me. Hands shaking, she ripped it open. A handwritten note. Elena, if you're reading this, you tried to kill me, but part of me always hoped you wouldn't. If you want to know the truth, the full truth about my estate, your past, and the secret you think I never discovered, go to the lake house. Look beneath the floorboards in the study. I know about him. I know everything. I still chose you. Richard. She reread it 3 times. One line echoed in her skull. I know about him. How could he know? She looked up. The man in the car was watching her. What's at the lake house? She demanded. He smirked. Redemption, or prison. Depends on how you play it. That night, Elena drove herself. No driver, no entourage, just her and the letter. The lake house had been their retreat. Quiet, off the grid, no cameras, no staff. She hadn't been back since last summer. Rain hammered the roof as she stepped inside. Everything was untouched, dusty, frozen in time. She went straight to the study. The floorboards creaked underfoot. She pulled back the rug, found the loose plank Richard always joked about. Only now, she knew it wasn't a joke. Beneath the wood was a box. Inside, a second burner phone, a flash drive, a folder. She opened the folder. Birth certificates, photos, DNA test results. And then she saw it. A photo of a child. Her child. With Richard. 17 years ago, Elena had given birth to a boy. She was barely 15. Her parents, religious zealots, had sent her away to a retreat center that specialized in shaming pregnant teens into compliance. She never saw the baby after delivery. She was told he was adopted by a distant family, that he would be safe. But now, somehow, Richard had found him, raised him, loved him. He knew, she whispered, knees buckling. All this time, he knew. The flash drive held videos, memories, letters, proof that Richard had discovered her secret. And instead of exposing it, he had protected her. And she killed him. It was nearly dawn when she drove back to the city. The weight of what she'd learned crushed her chest. She had murdered the man who had saved her son. The man who had rewritten his will not to punish her, but to test her. And she had failed. But there was still the question. Where was her son now? The next morning, the stranger returned. "You want to find him," he said. Elena nodded. He tossed her a small envelope. Inside was a location. A name, Julian M. Halston. Age, 17. Location, Brooklyn, New York. "But there's something else," the stranger said. "Someone else is looking for him, too." "Who?" He hesitated. "Your fixer. The one you hired to clean up the crime. He wants to tie loose ends. And your son is the last one." Elena packed a bag. No lawyers. No delays. She was going to find her son. To warn him. To protect him. To beg for forgiveness. But as she reached the airport, her burner phone buzzed. A text. From a blocked number. Too late. Attached. A photo of a young man in a hoodie, lying face down in an alley. Elena screamed. The morgue was cold. The fluorescent lights humming above Elena's head as she waited outside the viewing room. A medical examiner approached, clipboard in hand, eyes hesitant. "Are you ready, ma'am?" She nodded, heart hammering in her throat. They pulled back the sheet. It wasn't him. The boy had similar features, yes, but not Julian. The scar on the chin was missing. The eyes were wrong. Relief and confusion washed over her at once. "Not my son," she whispered, but someone wanted her to believe it was. Someone wanted her to stop looking. That night, Elena returned to her hotel room. The flash drive from the lake house clutched tightly in her hand. There was one video she hadn't watched yet. She plugged it in. Julian appeared on screen. 16, maybe. Behind him, Richard's study. "If you're seeing this, Mom." "Yeah, I know who you are. Richard told me everything. I don't hate you. I don't know you. But I want to. He said one day you'd come looking for me. That maybe you'd need saving, too." He smiled sadly. "But if someone else found this first, run. They're not just after you. They're after the truth he hid. And I think I know where he buried it." The video ended abruptly. The file name blinked. Redemption_1. A name scratched in the margins of one of Richard's documents. Reverend John Cale. Brooklyn. A rundown parish in the industrial zone. Elena drove there herself, eyes scanning every rearview mirror. The Reverend met her at the door like he'd been expecting her. "He told me you might come. Said to give you this. A rusted key." "What's it for?" she asked. "For the truth he couldn't speak in court. You'll find it under the old train yard. There's a storage unit beneath the platforms. It's not listed anywhere." That night, under cover of fog, Elena broke into the train yard. Rats scurried. The wind howled through rusting metal beams. She found the unit. The key fit perfectly. Inside boxes, dozens, files, photos, documents marked Halston Industrial Corp. and Witness Protection Application. Denied. And then she saw it. A file on Julian M. Halston. Stamped, active target. She backed away, just as the door slammed shut behind her. Footsteps. A voice. "I told you not to dig, Elena. Now look where we are." The man from the car stepped into the light. But this time his badge was visible. Federal. "You lied," she whispered. Not lied. Redirected. Richard wasn't just wealthy. He was dangerous. He was supposed to testify against men who don't forget betrayal. You murdering him? That made things complicated. He paced. Julian's the only loose end now, and you've led us right to him. You're going to kill him. He smiled faintly. Not me. Them. A fire alarm blared. Sprinklers burst. Someone had triggered the system. The door to the unit exploded outward. Julian stood there, soaked, older now, eyes hard. Get away from her. Gunshots rang out. Julian Dove pulling Elena down. The agent went for his weapon, but Julian was faster, too fast. Trained. Where did you learn? Elena gasped. Richard didn't just raise me. He prepared me. He dragged her out. Sirens approached. They ran. The safe house was hidden in Vermont's quiet woods. One of Richard's last failsafes. Julian led Elena inside, locking the reinforced doors behind them. How long have you known? Elena asked, breathless. That they'd come for us? Julian poured her water. Since I was 12. Richard said if he ever died suddenly, it wasn't natural. And if you ever showed up, it meant he'd failed to keep us both safe. Elena scanned the room. Maps, weapons, files, plans. This wasn't a boy on the run. Julian had become a strategist, a soldier forged by paranoia. Julian opened one final flash drive. Redemption under surveillance. Richard's voice played. If this is activated, then I'm dead. And so is my silence. Everything, Halston corpse laundering, the bribe senators, the human trafficking, has been documented. They will erase you if you don't erase them first. Julian looked at his mother. He didn't just leave me a fortune. He left me a war. The files revealed names. But one stunned Elena. Reverend John Cale. He gave us the key, she said. Julian shook his head. He also gave them our location. Look, a transaction. Large. Recent. Under Cale's name. He was paid to delay us. Not help us. Julian stood, deadly calm. We're not running anymore. Using Richard's files, Julian and Elena contacted an independent journalist. Within 48 hours, headlines erupted. Halston Corporation tied to government cover-ups and political corruption. 2 senators resigned. The FBI launched an internal probe. Arrests followed. But not everyone went quietly. Elena's car was bombed in D.C. She wasn't inside. But the message was clear. Silence or death. They returned to the lake house, now burned down to its foundation. Julian retrieved a tin box, hidden beneath a stone marked with an old fishing hook. Inside, his real birth certificate, the deed to an offshore vault. A photo of him as a toddler on Elena's lap. She gasped. He knew, she whispered. All this time, he knew I'd come back. Julian nodded. He wanted me to forgive you. I don't yet, but I will. They buried Richard beside the lake, under an old oak tree. I hated him, Elena said. But he raised you, and somehow, he protected us both, even after death. Julian placed a rock over the fresh soil. He was a monster in many ways, but at least he gave his son a reason to survive. A helicopter roared overhead. Julian looked up. We have to go. Where now? Elena asked. He looked at her. Not the scared boy she once left, but the man he'd become. To finish what he started. 6 months later. A secure room in Geneva. Elena and Julian stood before the final safety deposit box tied to Richard Halston's will. Inside, not gold, not documents. A single photo. Julian's mother, holding a baby, standing beside a man Elena had hoped never to see again. Her real husband. Richard had never been Julian's biological father. The true patriarch was still alive, and watching.